Good morning. We're into the book of Proverbs still. We've got two more chapters that we're going to go through this month. I'm going to skip a few today and go to chapter 31 because of Mother's Day. But I hope that you've been reading the book of Proverbs regular. Even though we're not here, there's just so much in the book of Proverbs. Things that you just won't get anywhere else. Book of Proverbs shows us two things. First off, how to live God's way, not the way that we think we should, and that the world shows that we should. Boy, that's completely opposite of what God says. But it shows us also not only how to live God's way, but how we should counteract with each other in this society. We can learn so much from that. How we deal with our neighbor or even our enemies, rulers, those that are not as fortunate as us. How we talk, how we deal with foolish people, taking advice, that's a big thing in there. Our work ethic, self-control, and how we talk to others, people to avoid. Even though we're only covering, as far as the Proverbs themselves, chapters 10 through 30, or where most of the Proverbs are, we only got 3 chapters in there. So I've kind of been encouraging my class to read those chapters in between, because it is just so important. And if you've not read through the Proverbs lately, I'd encourage you to do it. Not only do it once, but do it regular. I think we can see, how much Brother Bob reads through the Proverbs, because he talks so much about relationships with people. And this tells us how to do it, which we fail so many times. One thing I want to mention that, of course, in the first part of the book of Proverbs, chapter 1, it's addressed as the king to his son. But it can apply to all people, not just a father to a son. And I want to say that today's lesson, whenever we go into starting on verse 10 of chapter 31, extolling the virtues of a righteous woman, that can apply to a husband also. So we want to remember that it's for everybody, not just to those that it seems like it's addressed to. Okay. We got about 9 verses here. Before we get to that, though, let me start that. The words of King Lemuel, the prophecy that his mother taught him. What, my son, and what, the son of my womb, and what, the son of my vows? Give not thy strength unto women, nor thy ways to that which destroyeth kings. Now, we don't know who King Lemuel is, whether it's someone who was an actual king, or he might have even been Solomon himself, just another name for him. But his mother is very concerned of him. Whenever we see these mentions that his mother is the one who's talking about this, and let me just say something here about mothers. Usually, the one who takes care of children, their first few years of life, is around the mother. And that is such an important thing. I have read where the Catholic Church once said, give us your kids till they're 5 years old and we'll have them from life. And that there's just about true. The things you'll get then are so important. So this mother's advice is so important. And she refers to about him being her son and the son of her vows. She was very concerned about him because that was a personal thing. Your kids mean more to you than just about anything else of this world. So there's 2 evils that she's going to mention to him here that he needs to be watched out. First off, she says, give not thy strength unto women, nor the ways to that which destroyeth kings. Now, you know what? We know in reality that physical desires are one of the strongest desires that they are in men. Not only men, but can be women too. And it's no doubt that Satan uses that to tear down the people that he wants to work for him so that they can be a deterrent to God's ministry. We can see how that worked for David, man after God's own heart. But he let that get out of control with Bathsheba. Solomon, it's what caused him to get the kingdom taken away from his descendants, 10 of the tribes, because of that. And of course, we've seen how it is with Samson. So it's very important that we don't allow the physical desires control us. especially kings, because it can, well, not only kings, it's just really to everyone. It can destroy our life. But then she says something else in verse 10. She says, it is not for kings, O Lemuel, it is not for kings to drink wine, nor for princes to drink strong drink, lest they drink and forget the law and pervert the judgment of any of the afflicted. So another thing, and a lot of times these go hand in hand with the sexual immorality and alcohol, drunkenness. And of course there's a reason for that. It's not just because God don't want us to do something that people might be considered fun, but alcohol is a drug, and it affects what we do. It affects our reflexes. It affects the way that we think. It gives us bad judgment. There are so many things. Even if it doesn't say in the Bible, we can look in the world today and see how the bad result of that is. People who are killed in accidents. Families that are abused because of it, because they're out of control. Bad decisions made. The money that goes into it. Especially for leaders, it is particularly bad because leaders have the responsibility of taking care of those that need their help. And it gives them bad judgment in doing that. In making laws. It's just not good. Here is one of the 2 places where the Bible does say when to drink. A lot of people don't realize that. But listen to this, what it says. Give strong drink unto him that is ready to perish, and wine unto those that be of heavy hearts. Let them drink and forget his poverty and remember his misery no more. So why does he say the reason why a person should drink? It's for medicinal purposes only. Now there's what Paul told Timothy too, to drink a little for his stomach's often infirmities. Besides that, he says to not be a partaker of wine whenever he's writing to Paul, whenever he's writing to Timothy and to Titus. So that is one of the things we really need to be careful with, because you don't know. Science or doctors tell us that there's some people that are more adaptable to be alcoholics than others are. And you never know if you're going to be that or not. So you never want to get started because you don't want to struggle with that. People are going to jail because they know if they get another arrest of a DWI that they'll go to jail. But you know what? They end up in it every day. Okay, so says something else here. She does. Open thy mouth for the dumb in the cause of all such as are appointed to destruction. Open thy mouth, judge righteously, and plead the cause of the poor and needy. And I think he's backing up the importance of being a sober people who are leaders, because there's some people who don't have anyone to speak up for them. The word dumb doesn't mean that they're stupid or anything. It just means that they can't talk for themselves. A lawyer or leader has to do that. So we've got to be of a sober mind to be able to help those. Now, by the way, the Bible has a whole lot to say in the book of Proverbs about taking care of those who are needy or fatherless and widows. So we need something we need to have our mind open to, maybe much more than what we do. Now, here he goes into chapter 10, or verse 10 of chapter 31 of the virtuous woman. Now, by the way, this is called an acrostic poem. In the original, it's got 22 verses, which represents the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. And the very first part, the first verse, starts with the first letter and all the way down the line till all 22 verses. So it's kind of unique. The only places other that we see this is most of the book of the Lamentations of Jeremiah, and of course Psalms 119. So who wrote this? We don't know if this is still the mother. There's some question about who it is. It doesn't matter though. This is inspired by God. Starting on verse 10. Who can find a virtuous woman? For her price is far above rubies. By the way, whenever you see this in the Bible, usually, a question like this, it's implying that, hey, this isn't very easy to do. Usually it's something that you can't do. So this is something that's a seldom happens. A person who can find a virtuous woman. By the way, we see the word find there. You know what that implies? That implies you have to look for it. The person's just, that virtuous woman's just not going to come into your life. It's something you have to dedicate your time to find her. Okay? She's more precious than anything you could get. Verse 11 says, the heart of the husband doth safely trust in her, so that he hath no need of spoil. She will do him good and not evil all the days of her life. We see here that this is a person, that the husband don't worry about. He doesn't worry about anything about her in her whole life, not just her faithfulness, but in anything that she does. He's going to do him nothing but good. The reason why that is because we're going to find out she is not concerned about her own self, but she's concerned about her husband, her children, and others. Here's some of the things it says that she does. It says she seeketh wool and flax and worketh willingly with her hands. She's someone who goes to an extra effort to find out what the needs of her family would be, where she could take care of the stuff herself instead of spending money to go do it. She works willingly. It's a pleasure to her to do these things for her family. Verse 14, she is like the merchant ships. She bringeth her food from afar. You know what? She goes out of her way to find a bargain and to get the best for her family. She riseth also while it is yet night, and giveth meat to her household and a portion to her maidens. She's just not concerned about doing it in the daytime. Hey, this is my time that I got time to do this and it's over. No, her concern is, even if it doesn't get done, to go on in the night. She's a frugal person too, and a businesswoman also, we see in verse 16 and 17. She considereth a field, and buyeth it. With the fruit of her hands she planteth a vineyard. She girdeth her loins with strength, and strengtheneth her arms. She's thinking about what she can do to help her family out. She's not doing this for herself. She's doing this for her whole family. Verse 18, she perceiveth that her merchandise is good, her candle goeth not out at night. That can mean that she works into the night, but something else it can refer to also is that she's got the means, because of the way that she's worked and helped supply her with her husband for the household, that she doesn't have to quit anything at bedtime, turn off the oil because she's going to run out, because she's helped taking care of that. But not only is her concern for her family, in verse 20 we see, she stretcheth out her hand to the poor, yea, and she reacheth forth her hands to the needy. She's not stingy, she's not concerned about her own things, but she's concerned about others also. She's not afraid of the snow for her household, for her house are clothed with scarlet. Whenever bad weather comes along, she's not going to be concerned whether they got enough clothes or the right clothes to keep warm, because she has not only made them, she's taken care of them. And he says she herself maketh herself coverings of tapestry. Her clothing is silk and purple. In everything that she does, she has taken care of not only herself, but others. In verse 23, it says her husband is known in the gates, where he sitteth among the elders. You know what that implies? The gate was where the people met to do business. And it gave her husband the opportunity to do the work that he needed to do, because she was doing as much as she could. I'll tell you what, my time is about up, but let me just make a few more comments here at the very end here. Says, many daughters have done, this is verse 29, many daughters have done virtuously, but thou excellest them all. Favor or charm is deceitful, and beauty is vain, but a woman that feareth the Lord, she shall be praised. The things that we look at whenever we're along, a person looking for a spouse, it's awful easy just to look at that beauty. But you know what? That's going to be gone someday. That's going to be fleeting, and we've got to be careful. The only way we can do this is kind of like what I told my Sunday school class about the woman who's a brawling woman, how hard it is to live with them. It's good to you got to make decisions before you marry the person that you do. You got to know what kind of person they are. Things aren't going to change. You can't change them, probably, but you want to check them out good. See what kind of person they are before you marry them. You know, he says, "The woman that feareth the Lord, she shall be praised." You know, at the very beginning, I believe is in either chapter 3 or chapter 5, the Bible says the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. It's the same thing with her. They shall be praised. And give her the fruit of her hands, and let her own works praise her in the gates. You know that there's what they said about Ruth whenever her future husband said, "All the people in the gates know what kind of a woman you are." The kind of person you are will be known real quick by everyone around. And for Ruth and for this woman here, they're praised. We want to be sure we're not the other kind that won't be praised. I hope you have a really good Mother's Day. God bless you all.